So this is starting about 10 minutes earlier than is stated on the banner. The This is part A of the Khoodeelaar television channel, broadcasting only on the internet, not on terrestrial, not on satellite, not on cable platforms. Now, this one is about, I think, an overdue series of updates about Newham Council in London, fronted by the daughter, allegedly or reportedly, of a Pakistani bus driver called Roxana Fiaz. Fiaz herself was born in Tower Hamlets in the Mile End Hospital, but her father is reportedly one of the three Pakistani bus drivers whose children, according to the racist, patronizing, matronizing media in Britain, these three bus drivers from Pakistan have had children that are in public posts in the UK. One is Sadiq Khan, the person in the post of mayor at the expense of London, and one is Sajid Javid, an MP and holder of several conservative cabinet posts in the last few years. And the latest one, of course, is Roxana Fiaz. Now, Fiaz is fronting the Newham Council at a time when Newham Council's social services have been found to have neglected a woman called Lillian John Baptiste. Now, Lillian John Baptiste was in her 70s, and she was found mummified. That is, her dead body was discovered about 2 years after she died at an address in Canning Town in Newham itself. Now, Canning Town is the district of Newham where the United Nations Special Envoy Philip Alston attended a meeting in the Barking Road, which is the center of Canning Town, on the 12th of November 2018. Now, 2018 is the year. May 2018 is when Roxana Fiaz became the mayor first time after being selected by the Labour Party in Newham to become the Labour Party's candidate instead of Robin Wales, who was in post for 16 years, starting from 2002. Now, Robin Wales is a corrupt, racist thug. That racist thug made his personal profile even worse by boasting on the record that he was one of the very few people, or he was one of the people who were members of the Ice Peak Club. That was a sick-making, boasted name for the gang that murdered Leon Trotsky with an ice pick. That is sadistic, Robin Wales. So people were too fed up to allow Robin Wales to remain in post after 16 years. And they decided to change Robin Wales, and they chose Roxana Fiaz. Why they chose Roxana Fiaz? Because Fiaz herself was fueling her own nomination by being a member of a gang, secretive gang of 4 or 5 or 6 for several years before the election in 2018. And she promoted herself as a loyal supporter of the Labour Party regime fronted by Gordon Brown in the UK. She got an OBE or MBE, whatever it is. What is it she's got? She's got one of those things that are contradictory with fighting racism. It's an OBE, Order of the British Empire. How can that be? I mean, so the fact that she advertises that, or carries that with her name, shows that she is proud of it. She is not ashamed of it. So there is a problem about that kind of pride in being servile to imperialism and racism. And when Philip Alston visited Newham in November 2018, he did that as part of the week-long visit of the UK, apparently looking at evidence of poverty and hardship and homelessness. Alston himself is a racist, and Alston is not a radical, and Alston is not an opponent of kind of poverty creation by the state. So that is what I'm saying, and that is what the evidence says. But that is not what the British media covering Alston have said. They actually said, like one person called Kate Garner, who is part of a charity trust, wrote a piece on the 19th of November 2018 in which she called him highly respected or respected. Alston may be respected by the racists and the idiots, but Alston is not an honest individual. Alston, an Australian racist, operating as an academic at a university in New York, didn't do anything against poverty. The real poverty created by the states, both in the USA and in the UK and other places and internationally. Alston is not an opponent of imperialism. So when the Daily Mail published the piece about Alston's visit in Newham and they published it on the 14th of November 2018, they actually misused a Twitter account. The Twitter account is actually Scrap Newham Mayor. And they wrongly quoted this tweet. Anyone who uses the criminally intentional lying phrase pockets of poverty when admitting that 40 million plus Americans are being stifled, violated in those pockets must be insane. The Daily Mail didn't use that. It used the last question. It is the UN's overhyped poverty and by Alston. Why is he being plugged in the UK? Now, the Daily Mail actually used that as a misinterpreted this as saying that why is Alston in the UK at all? Now, Alston was being attacked by the Dracula, Ian Duncan Smith himself, and also the then Poverty Creation Secretary, Amber Rudd, who dismissed and rejected Alston's very mild kind of criticism on the day after he published his report. So, against all of that background, Roxana fears and her failures are being completely covered up and denied. And the result is that Lillian John Baptiste was neglected for 2 years, if not for 3 years or 4 years. According to her daughter, her mother has had serious mental health problems for 40 years. How was it that this individual was neglected to a point that her death was not known for 2 years. And she was allowed to die in such a circumstance. In her apology, as published by the Independent Online on the day after the meeting, 13th of November 2018, Roxana Fiers actually said she apologized for the behavior of these Newham Council employed social services, social workers. She didn't call them social workers. She said people we employ, that is the Newham Council employed. Now, what happened was that nothing has changed. Nothing changed since she apologized on the 12th of November 2018, because Lillian John Baptiste's mummified body was found sometime 2020 or 2021. Let's see when she was actually her body was found. Let's find out when actually she was. Okay, so according to an item in the Newham Voices, let's go back to the piece if you can locate it. Okay, so this is the investigation piece published on the 26th of December 2022 by the Guardian series. It's not the same as the Guardian newspaper. It's a local newspaper in the northeast of London. And it's a tragic deaths that exposed East London's mental health failures. Now, this lists 3 people that died in tragic, mysterious deaths. The one is Charles Thompson. Well, it's by the investigations reporter Charles Thompson. And who are the people? Let's actually find the actual content of this piece. It's interesting because okay, so these 3 people. One is Sophia, 37, was found decomposing in her Hornchurch flat in November 2021. And amazingly, a coroner declined to hold an inquest because a pathologist, notice this, a pathologist said she had died from diabetes or alcohol abuse. But the fact is that Sophia was not an alcoholic. She was a teetotaler and she did not have diabetes. After the Guardian series reported this anomaly, the coroner ordered an inquest. After all, where staff from the Northeast London NHS Foundation Trust were called to testify. Sophia, a schizophrenia patient who needed regular antipsychotic injections, was meant to be monitored by a care coordinator. We shall talk about care coordinator as a business in another part. But testify, but testified Northeast London Foundation Trust Assistant Director Arvine Marzoni, Sophia had no coordinator for months because the trust was so understaffed that it was flagged as a risk. During this time, Sophia was mistakenly left off the register for the injection, so nobody noticed when she missed it. By the time Northeast London Foundation Trust realized and looked for her, she had already died. She died from high levels of acid in her blood, which can be caused by a period of starvation. Sophia had told her mom that she was surviving on one sandwich a day after her benefits were wrongly axed. None of this would have been hard in court without our initial reporting, which is the Guardian series reporting. Northeast London Foundation Trust said it was implementing learning as a result of Sophia's death. What a sick, stupid, idiotic excuse. And to make things even worse, the so called Care Quality Commission, notice this Care Quality Commission is supposed to be looking at the quality of care provided by these businesses. It rated this organization, investigated failures details, and was striving for improvement. It rated, said that but the Care Quality Commission rated an inquest into the death of Louise Allen. I'll come back to the Care Quality Commission later. An inquest into the death of Louise Allen from Haque Place, Walthamstow, hard evidence that Northeast London Foundation Trust had been understaffed for years. Assistant Director Robin Suka said it had employed more people than its budget allowed, but even that was not enough. There is a shortage of social workers, occupational therapists, even doctors, he said. Now, all these titles, social workers, occupational therapists, even doctors, need to be explained and qualified because by calling someone a social worker does not tell the truth about what they actually get up to. Two coordinators gave up Louise's case, unable to cope with their caseloads. Persistent signs that she might take her own life were missed. She died in June 2021. Robert Barrills of Petersfield Avenue, Harold Hill, took his life in January 2022. He was meant to be closely monitored, but nobody at Northeast London Foundation Trust contacted him for 9 weeks. That is more than 2 months. Coroner Nadia Prasad raised formal concerns. Northeast London Foundation Trust said it would reflect on the coroner's findings to ensure that the quality of care at the trust continues to improve. I mean, improve is not the word, it should continue to deteriorate. That is what has been happening. Now, there's another woman called Rosalind Wolf. Rosalind Wolf, 74, died in a house fire in Martwell Road, Romford. in January, that is, it must be January 2022. Relatives had raised concerns about her mental capacity. Her home was filled with rubbish and animal feces. Northeast London Foundation Trust repeatedly asserted that Mrs. Wolfe had sufficient mental capacity to refuse its help. But in a report after she died, it admitted she may not have had the capacity that it claimed she had. Northeast London Foundation Trust's lawyer accepted a number of shortcomings in care, including a failure to carry out a capacity test. That inquest is pending about Miss Wolfe. Despite concerns raised in these hearings, the Care Quality Commission upgraded Northeast London Foundation Trust in autumn to a good rating. Good rating presumably comes when people are neglected to die. There was recognition that there was still much more to do, but the progress was evident, inspectors wrote. Then this case of Lillian John Baptiste. A Newham case exposed failures by another mental health trust. Ex nurse Lillian John Baptiste is believed to have died in late 2019, aged 73. So that was about a year after Roxana Fias, Newham's newly elected mayor, apologized at a meeting in Kennington attended by UN Special Envoy Philip Alston. But Lillian John Baptiste's actual date of death is unknown. She was mummified by the time she was found in February 2022. She lay dead for more than a year. Well, if she died in late 2019, then 2020, 2021, it's more than 2 years, it should be, not more than a year. So the Guardian series is wrong there. Mrs. John Baptiste had schizoaffective disorder and was known not to properly care for herself or comply with treatment during relapses. But when she did not answer phone calls from the East London NHS Foundation Trust in late 2019 and early 2020, that foundation trust simply struck her off instead of investigating why she didn't respond. Evidence suggested she may have still been alive when those calls began, but was likely dead by the time she was struck off. Coroner Graham Irvine called the case scandalous and shocking. East London Foundation Trust expressed sincere condolences and said it was thoroughly reviewing the case. That is an absolute pack of lies. What is there to review? So these people who have published this are saying if you have a story for the News Quest Investigations Unit in London, email Charles Thompson at newsquest.co.uk. So that is one, and that is the one that refers to Newham, because we can identify a number of things about Newham social services. Going back to the meeting that Philip Alston attended in November 2018. We shall be coming back to all of this in the next part because of technical reasons we are ending this part at 24 minutes approximately, and we shall come back to part B a bit later.